I bought my first plot, Costa, to construct a house which I could afford at the time. Not far from where we're seated, Kalingalinga. You know where Kalingalinga is? Very near your studio here. My second salary, I bought a plot. I could not afford a bricklayer with a team of builders or helpers. I was, in Zambia, we call it Daka boy.
Explain to the millions watching out there, truthfully, who HAKAINDE is and how you amassed your wealth. Because again, mud has been thrown at you. The president himself, we've been told your ranches have been flown over. The president has mocked you in the public place to say you speak on behalf, you claim to be speaking on behalf of the poor, yet you own probably half of the country in terms of wealth. You heard the president say that. You stole funds through privatization. Who is HH? How did you amass your wealth? Are you a humble citizen and one who is ready to serve the people of Zambia?
Costa, I'm just a simple villager. I'm a guy who comes from the floor, and I'm very proud of that. Every Zambian should be proud of their heritage. I come from the floor, went to a village school, Costa, and went to secondary school within the area where God chose that I be born. Very happy and proud of that. Every Zambian should be proud of their heritage. I've said that already. Because that's given by God. No one chooses which parents you should be born out of, which language you should speak. And there's no, by the way, Costa, there's no minority tribe in this country. There's no minority ethnic group. All of them are equal. And I emphasize this issue. So I then went, after my secondary school, Costa, all in public schools, no private school. By the way, before the school level, I was born in a grass-thatched house, not in a maternity wing of a hospital or a clinic. In a village, we drew water from a shallow well, walked to school, Costa, barefoot, basically, walked to school. And this is the reason why I'm very passionate about education, so that no other children, whether they're orphans or not, should go through what we went through. Costa, I went to the University of Zambia to study economics and business on a government scholarship. Hey, who are we that we seek public office and are not willing to offer education to that child from a compound, or that child who is a double orphan, mother and father are dead? Who are we? Then there's something wrong with us, because we actually ought to make it easier for the children to acquire skills than it was for us. So Costa from there did many things, many things. I bought my first plot, Costa, to construct a house which I could afford at the time. Not far from where we're seated, Kalingalinga. You know where Kalingalinga is? Very near your studio here. My second salary, I bought a plot. I could not afford a bricklayer with a team of builders or helpers. I was, in Zambia, we call it Daka boy. I was the one pushing a wheelbarrow. Built our first house. Couldn't complete it, sold it at a profit, bought another plot, built, couldn't complete it, Costa. And then I was innovative. Entrepreneurship comes from our heritage, cattle keeping. You can say I was born in a cattle kraal. And I think that's where the business training came from. Later on, it was just to add on. Costa, from there on, I couldn't complete this house. By the way, when I was building Kalingalinga, my fellow classmates from university were laughing at me that I was building a house in the compound. I didn't see why anybody would laugh at me, because I was building a house. They weren't. I was already better. And I had nothing to lose. So this culture, Costa, where people place themselves where they don't belong, is actually wrong. So I went to a company then, those days, and I told them I was going out for studies for a couple of years in Europe, in UK to be specific. And I said to the guys, look, I can't complete this house. Complete it for me. 1 year you don't pay rent. I went away. Cost of the house was completed. When I came back, there was rent in my bank account. After a year, the rest is history. We've worked for ourselves, Costa. We've come from the floor. I'm a grassroots person. I'm just a simple villager.
So
there's nothing.
Where do all these allegations and clamor come from? Because there is a picture painted that something dubious along the way, or something irregular or unethical was done by HH and group, and this is how this group of young techs who are now, financially powerful, want now to take over the reins of politics and this country's leadership. There's still that grey area that even the likes of the president say, can he explain just how he's one of the top rich guys in this country with ranches that are always flown over to show as an example to the Zambians?
Costa, our situation, my situation must be used positively. It must not be used to ridicule Hakainde. First, the president was out of order, and I challenged him that I'm not a thief. I have no thieving mind in my blood, or thread or iota of a thieving culture in my blood. I challenged the president. I said, Mr. President, if you have a thieving culture, I don't have. And you know this president we're talking about. If I had stolen anything, the other time he said I stole cattle, and I simply said to him, Mr. President, cattle are not like rats. Cattle have owners, right? Human beings who own them. If you steal cattle, you get arrested. In the event you think I stole cattle, why? You are the president. Why don't you instruct the police, since you love arresting me?
To settle this matter for the sake of the millions watching.
Yes.
Again, I want to take this opportunity for you to explain to them, who are you and this wealth? How has it come off? Would you declare tonight to the Zambians to say, this is what I own and this is how I've owned it?
Well, look, first, the president was being malicious, to be honest. He was abusing a citizen called Hakainde. And he got away with it, because the only response he got was, Mr. President, if you think I stole anything, hey, get me into court or detain me. After all, I'm used to being detained by him on flimsy charges. He didn't detain me on that. I can assure you, if I had stolen anything, Costa, I wouldn't be talking to you tonight in this studio. I'll be languishing in cells. Cells which have no water, as he has thrown me in cells several times, without electricity, without food, with fecal matter. But that's a by the way issue. This is the stench in African politics we want to get rid of. To use the president to demean citizens who actually should be used as good examples to motivate the young people. This is what we would like to do, to take out this vindictiveness, to draw the line, to say, this is not how you run a country when you are given an opportunity to do that. You should actually try and manage the country differently. Manage the country in a professional manner.
President HH, I want to go to the text messages in putting this matter to rest, because you are in a political ring where your opponents are seemingly glaring or throwing mud about you about something they believe is not right about you. For the sake of a Zambian watching out there who probably wants to put a vote on you, how do you convince them that there's something or everything right about you against these allegations?
Costa, the easiest way is to say, if I was a thief under this president leader, I'm using them synonymous, deliberate, where I get detained even for appearing on a program like this. After this, interview, I know I can be detained. Why has he failed to detain me for his assumption of me having stolen anything? I've challenged him. I've challenged the PF government, and they've fallen flat on this. That should prove to you that there's nothing wrong we've done. Because if there was anything wrong we had done, they would have jumped on it, because they have appetite to lock people like me up. So, hang on, Costa, a little bit. So, Zambians must know that hard work pays. Costa, opportunity. First opportunity I got, you should ask me the question, is education. I told you I went to school on a government scholarship. That was for me, that was it. And I wasn't looking for any inheritance from anyone. That was enough. Education, I call Costa the best equalizer, the best inheritance. And that's why we owe it to our children. From there on, I got a job. I wrote my final exam here in this university nearby here. On a Friday, Costa. On a Monday, I had a full-time job. Opportunity, which is not available to our youth today under the PF leadership. Even if they were promised more jobs, There are no jobs. Absolutely none. I'm talking of real jobs. I'm not talking of pushing a wheelbarrow to move garbage at a street corner, which PF defines.
Lots of people have
right?
criticized the privatization process in this country, especially the mine. It's also from there that we are told you were involved as valuator within the valuation of some of these mines. What is your take? Do you feel that you are part to blame in the bad decisions and obviously the raw deals that this country got out of privatization of the mines? People now have stood on mountains and blown trumpets regarding KCM cells, Luansha copper mines and others. Do you feel part to the blame?
Costa, how can one blame Hakainde? I've never been in government. The privatization program was a MMD government program. How can Hakainde be responsible for a government program when he's outside government? How powerful is this fellow called HH that he could be basically dictating a government program from outside? He doesn't work with like that, especially under the African leaders we've seen in the past, who actually are excessively greedy. And that's what we want to heal when we get into office. And believe me, we will do it. There was no way that one can say Hakainde is responsible for the privatization program in this country. It was the MMD government. Who was in the MMD government, Costa? Have you ever asked that question? The ministers in the MMD government, the cabinet of the MMD that decided on the privatization program, included just a few examples. Mr. Michael Sata, who was the minister without portfolio in the MMD government. He's the one who decided on the privatization program. Next, then Minister of Agriculture. Who is it? Dr. Guy Scott, who is today the Vice President of Zambia. He was in that cabinet.
What was your role? What was your role, despite not being part of government?
Hang on, my friend. Let's use today's platform to clear issues that are used to ridicule Hakainde because of pettiness.
And you're being given a chance on this platform.
Exactly. So, second Minister of Agriculture, who sat in that cabinet to decide on the privatization program, Guy Scott, who today is the Vice President of Zambia. Who is the other minister? Or who is the other key player? The Minister of Finance, Alexander Chikwanda, was the Chief of Staff in State House under the MMD. They probably would have been the one advising President Chiluba, the late Chiluba, may he so rest in peace. How can Hakainde be more powerful than all these men who today are masquerading as not responsible for the privatization?
Like you said, let's use this platform to clear these issues. What was your role?
So I think I've convinced you and the viewers.
Well, it's not me, it's the viewers. But what was your role? What was your role?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the viewers, Costa, that it wasn't my domain. I was just a young professional doing my job. Here's my role. I ran a firm called Coopers & Lybrand, international firm of basically advisors. And we bid to do various pieces of work. Sometimes for clients, sometimes for whoever wanted. For example, Costa, if you are selling your house or you're selling your farm and you come to Hakainde to say, Hakainde, I want your firm to bid so that you can do me an asset verification. That's the job, an asset verification. And I bid my firm, which I was running, and I win the tender. We negotiate the contract, you sign the contract. In that contract includes deliverables that I'll do an asset verification for you. That's what I'm trained to do. I'm proud of that. Then you agree the fees. No one is in prison. It's business.
Is it true that you undervalued these assets
Costa,
to deprive the Zambians of what is due to them?
Absolutely not true. That's malice. Malice of the same people who sat in the cabinet, like President Sata, Guy Scott, and the Chief of Staff Chikwanda, who sat in that cabinet. That's malice.
What is your comment on the low amounts that, Ramco's bought Luansha mines, at the low amounts that Nchanga was bought for? What is your take as an expert in asset verification?
I can tell you that there was no competence in the government to negotiate deals good for Zambia. The government, because they were the sellers. Hakainde was not a seller. I was never a seller. Now, let me
You were on the other side of the negotiation.
Let me complete the example I gave you. And then I do an asset verification for you. And you want to use that asset verification to negotiate with a buyer. I hope you're following. I give you my report of your asset verification. You pay me my fees. Hey, thank you for paying my fees. That's what I was trying to do. You go ahead and sell your farm or sell your company. You sell your assets. I've given you my report of the asset verification. Then you go and negotiate a bad deal. Then tomorrow you come back to me and say, Hakainde, you cheated me. How did I cheat you? You have no capacity. You had no capacity to negotiate. You thought you had capacity. You didn't have capacity. Because most politicians in this country and in Africa, they overvalue themselves. They don't even seek professional advice. Look at how the PF runs the country today. No professional understanding of how to run agriculture. And that's why the price of food has increased. No professional understanding of how to run basically certain policies such as monetary policy. Which example am I giving you? Statutory Instrument 33, which the PF cabinet, and 20 years later, Costa, let me remind you, some of the members of the cabinet in PF today who introduced Statutory Instrument 33, which effectively was flawed, and ask me how it was flawed. In an import-dependent economy, you close out foreign exchange inflow routes. That was the effect of Statutory Instrument 33. And then tomorrow, you want to have a dollar to import your daily requirements. Fuel, machinery, tractor. What do? You kill the kwacha, you kill the currency. You damage basically the economy. And you are told, then you don't listen. This is what's happening in the PF today. And this is what UPND wants to fix. They want to, now, the point I've given you, the example I've given you, Costa, I have demonstrated to you today that it was never in my remit. It was never my power to privatize anything. By the way, I did not value any mine.
Is Hakainde coming to the people of Zambia a clean man?
Absolutely. And people have now understood that a lot of mud was thrown at Hakainde, Costa. And Hakainde had no opportunity to basically explain himself. And I'm very grateful that you are asking these questions over and over. And Zambians have now basically made a judgment that Hakainde is a humble creature who first worked for himself. And that's the way I view public office, Costa. First work for yourself and your children, so that when you come to seek public office, you can now work for the children of the 14 million Zambians.